we have here at the opening of the chapter, it becomes clear that Vamanadev is this divine personality. He appears first in his Vishnu form with 4 hands and the different symbols in each of his hands, the conch, the disc, the lotus, and the club. And then he changes his form into that of a dwarf Brahman brahmachari for the Lila to unfold. And as we recall, this is in response to a series of events that took place prior, where we had Aditi Mataji very disturbed because her dear sons, the demigods, were displaced from their reign over the world. And it was Bali Maharaj, as the head of the demons, who had overtaken them, overthrown them. And she was so disturbed that Kashyapa Muni, her dear husband, great sage, wanted to pacify her and recommended that she perform this yagya of the Payovrata. So she fasted and she performed worship of Lord Vishnu. And the reciprocation was that Vishnu would appear as her son in the form of Vamana, this dwarf. So here we are, and all of the great personalities of the universe are coming to offer their homage to this divine incarnation of Krishna. And it's a beautiful scene, and yet Vamanadev is overshadowing everybody. And then he's preparing to approach the sacrificial arena where Bali Maharaj is doing his Ashvamedha horse sacrifice to gain even more power, and also he's a great devotee. So it's a very interesting dynamic. We wanted to also, just before we get into the content for today, offer this as a Bhagavatam class in dedication to Her Grace Krishna Nandini Devi, who just departed recently. She's been our marriage mentor and will always be our marriage mentor, and we pray for her presence now and always, and we pray that this pleases her and pleases each of you with some of her spirit.
Hare Krishna, everyone. As Hari mentioned, we're very grateful to be here, and just seeing so many familiar names and faces really calms our nerves as well. So thank you for encouraging us by being here. So as we were preparing for this class and kind of churning the chapter and churning the verses that we were asked to cover today, and reflecting on, what can we really, pull out of these verses, we started to reflect on all of the reasons that Vamanadev came, or the reasons that he started to approach Bali Maharaj, and how this is so applicable for all of us in our lives. So in this particular pastime, Lord Vamanadev is approaching Bali Maharaj. We came up with 6 different reasons. So firstly, as mentioned in this verse, in verse 20, the one that we read the purport for, he's appearing to show his mercy to his devotee, Bali Maharaj. Second reason is we know he's about to he's orchestrating this pastime, this beautiful pastime that is about to come, because he wants to glorify his devotee, Bali Maharaj, for all the world to learn from and to see. He's coming as well to reestablish the demigods on their throne after having been displaced by the demons. So he's coming to right what appears to be wrong in the world. He's also coming to reciprocate with the prayer of his dear devotee Aditi. So there's also something about the power of prayer and how, and a mother's love, and how, he's coming to reciprocate with her vrat and her prayer. He also needs to showcase and glorify the power of Kashyapa Muni, who acted as the guru of Aditi in advising her to perform this Payovrat. And so he wanted to glorify as well the guru and help his words come true as well. And also what we thought of a 6th reason is to show that there can be conflict among different parties that are both sides being devotees. So there's this Bali Maharaj, who is a great devotee, as well as the demigods, of course, both great devotees that have conflict. And he wanted to, one of the reasons that we thought was so glorious about this appearance was that he can show that he can come and help sort of resolve a conflict between two devotees by being loving with both sides. And also we sort of thought that that was exemplary for us as well. So as we were thinking about these 6 different reasons that we identified for Lord Vamanadev to appear, we thought that the one thread that kind of ties these 6 reasons together is the love and protection of his devotees. The Lord is always eager to show love and to protect his devotees. So again, he was eager to reciprocate with the prayers of Aditi, eager to glorify Bali Maharaj and Kasyapa Muni, and of course also eager to sort of right the situation between, the demigods being displaced. So we're going to kind of keep that as the theme of today's class. Again, sometimes we read these pastimes and they can be very enlivening for us to understand the love and the protection that we can receive from Krishna. And, especially during times like this has been a particularly difficult year for many people. And so just kind of hearing these stories of how the Lord assures us of his love and protection can be really kind of faith-giving. And, no matter what kind of situation you're in, no matter what kind of body you're in, no matter what kind of, what level of wealth that you have or don't have, there's always going to be struggle in this material world. And we were kind of reflecting how so many stories in the Bhagavatam continue to sort of drive home this point that the Lord will always show his love and protection for his devotees.
So it should be reassuring when we hear such reasons for the Lord's appearance and we understand that he is reciprocating with his devotees. It is crucial for us to have that reassurance repeatedly, because in the darkness of this material world, we can feel really bereft really easily. And without faith, what sets us apart from the conditioned lives that we were fated to lead before we stepped into devotional service? It's only faith that sets us apart. That Adau Shraddha is what brought us on this journey, and it is what expands throughout all the 9 stages of bhakti. They're all stages of faith. So when Krishna reassures us, he's doing it to grow our faith, to comfort us, to ease our emotions, and to grow our faith. Because the emotions only get temporarily eased if the faith does not sustain our well-being and our devotion. So with all of the modes of material nature, our karma, and the planetary arrangements acting upon us, this is what will allow us to transcend, to weather the storms, and to gracefully wade through all of that. It's faith in the Lord's love and protection. And this place is really an uninhabitable climate for the soul. The material world is uninhabitable for a soul. So how much faith it requires for us to get through, how we should be eager for that faith and eager for Krishna's reassurance and eager to hear the pastimes of the Lord that impart that to us. For me personally, this is my greatest mission, is to gain that faith, not just because that is the path of bhakti, which it is, but because it seems to be my biggest challenge on the path of bhakti. I can readily see how much I require that and how much I stumble, because at every moment there's some challenge on some level, internally, externally. It's said in Kali Yuga, the mind of everyone is always disturbed. I'm definitely a product of Kali Yuga, and I see that. And my faith is my only hope to sort of break through those struggles and realize myself as a devotee of Krishna eternally and untouched by the waves of this world, like the lotus flower, untouched by the mud, as Krishna speaks about in the Gita. So it is really my greatest mission to try to take that on. And I hope that through this experience together, we can gain in faith together. So it's what will allow us to experience the kind of ease in our bhakti and the ease in our life that we're craving. Who doesn't want ease? I mean, I'm always thinking, God, when will it become a life of ease? I'm not even saying easy. I'm just saying some ease, some freedom from the constant onslaught of things. And faith, to get that ease, we need the faith, right? And to get that faith, it requires the precedent of seeing Krishna's love. We can't emphasize this enough. Seeing his love for his devotees manifested again and again and again. And there will be tests to our faith and tests to being able to perceive and receive Krishna's love and protection for us. They will come large and small. They take innumerable forms. And one of the biggest tests of all, I think really there's very little that could be as big as this, is when we are separated from someone very dear to us. That is the ultimate, just like our own death is the final exam, the ultimate exam. So this is where the rubber hits the road. How do we have faith when we're put in that awful situation of losing somebody? It's such a struggle to see that we have to lose someone we care about, and also to see that person go through struggle and to lose everything of this world is so painful. So yes, it requires great, great faith, and we need that.
So as we mentioned, Krishna Nandini Prabhu has been very much in our hearts and our minds. And as we were preparing for this class, it felt like we needed to bring her into this. And as we were, again, churning and talking about the love and protection and the faith, and Hari just mentioned about life's final exam, when we were reflecting on Krishna Nandini Prabhu's life and also the way that she left, we were thinking about how faith-giving that was. And we just wanted to take a few moments to talk about her and glorify her in this context. So Krishna Nandini Prabhu, for those of you who don't know, spent her entire life helping others. She dedicated her life particularly to helping everybody in the Grihastha ashram, and she was the co-founder of the Grihastha Vision team here in North America. And if you knew her and if you heard her speak about her life, you knew that she was incredibly empowered. All of the words that came out of her mouth were straight Shastra. We were reflecting over the weekend about, this verse in the Gita about austerity of speech and how our words should always be truthful, beneficial, and pleasing. And this is something that Krishna Nandini Prabhu mastered. She could master this. We used to put her in our question and answer tent at the Toronto Rath Yatra, and she would be faced with many challenging and confrontational questions from people of different faiths or atheists who were actually trying to pick a fight. And no matter how she answered the question, it was always truthful, beneficial, and pleasing. She was an artist in the way she would answer questions. And if you observed her life, or if you heard her speak about her life, you know that she actually experienced a lot of discrimination, both because of being in a woman's body and also because of being in a Black body. She experienced a lot of discrimination in the world, but it was for us so faith-giving to see how she continuously overcame these challenges, how she continuously transcended these so-called, these material challenges, and continued to keep her mind focused on Srila Prabhupada and also Srimati Radharani, who is very much her Ishtadev. And when she told us that, that she was diagnosed with cancer, at first, it was very much, okay, how will we deal with this? And then just in May, she told us that she was palliative. So she's known for some time that she was going to be leaving. And when we asked her at that time, she was very kind to us and let us know, and we were able to speak to her personally, and we asked her, Krishna Nandini Prabhu, what can we do for you? What is the service we can render for you? And she said, arrange speaking engagements for me because I want to die on the battlefield. So for those of us who've been in Bhakti, even just for a short while, we can see there's so many examples of glorious devotees who at this time of death, this final lesson, kind of showed us, like, even amidst all of this bodily pain, the way to sort of be a soldier and die on the battlefield, and how faith-giving that is, to see that the process works. And Krishnanandini Prabhu at the time of her passing was surrounded by her family and was surrounded by the holy names. And you could see that, this lifetime of service, really, Krishna came for her at the end. And even towards, the end of her diagnosis, allowed her to stay here and inspire the rest of us. And again, provide us with this faith-giving experience of somebody who's just, again, dedicated her life. And in this most horrible circumstance, thought of it as the biggest blessing. And so we've seen that with multiple people. And in contrast, just about 3 years ago, Hari and I had the opportunity to be at the bedside of another Vaishnavi who was leaving her body. And it was another very faith-giving experience, but we wanted to bring this up because Krishnanandini Prabhu lived a life of sharing Krishna consciousness on the stage, just countless people, hundreds of people, if not thousands of people that she inspired regularly through her evangelical, just contagious way of sharing Krishna consciousness and her love for Srila Prabhupada with others. It was remarkable. And this other devotee who passed away, this other Vaishnavi, she was also, I think, around the same age, late 60s, maybe early 70s, I think actually 70. And very simple, a very simple, sweet devotee, always in the background. Maybe even some people at the temple, didn't always even remember her name, but they knew her face. They knew who she was. She was consistently there, always in the background. Again, very simple, never in the spotlight, never wanting the spotlight, always just maybe cooking meals for devotees or whatnot. And at the time of her passing, she also had a warning. She knew she was going to soon leave. And Hari and I had the just honor to be there for the last couple of weeks of her life, helping the family with some cooking, some cleaning, helping her. And at the time that she left her body, we were there. Hari was there virtually, and we were chanting at her bedside and, singing Hare Krishna, calling out the names of Lord Nrsimhadev. She had maha garlands from various deities around the world. Prior to her passing, she had people around the world doing kirtan for her. And she had her Giriraj Shila, placed on her head and then in front of her. And at the moment that she left, it poured rain for a few moments, and then the skies cleared, and it was confirmed that she had gone. And so we were thinking so much about, both of these circumstances and how, the time of death when we're not in bhakti, can be a reason to lose faith, but how fortunate we are to be in bhakti and see the time of death for other people to actually be a faith-giving experience. And during that time, prior to this other Vaishnavi's passing, just in that sort of time frame, we were at her home. And I don't know how else to explain it, but to say that it felt mystical, and it felt like we were in a dham. It felt like we were in a holy place of pilgrimage, because the presence of Krishna was unmistakable during that maybe 1 or 2 week time frame. The presence of, he was there, and he was there deeply with all of us at that time. And you could just feel it. You could feel that he came for his devotee. He came prior to her leaving, gave her the opportunity to reflect and hear Krishna Katha, and he came for her at the time of death, just like he came for Krishnanandini Prabhu at her time of leaving. Two very different people, both exemplary devotees, but in very, very different ways. And Nirakula Prabhu, I got to speak to her at that time, and I was reflecting about this experience of when this Vaishnavi was leaving. And I said to her, I can't believe it. It felt like I was in a dham, but yet it was this horrible circumstance. Somebody who's sick, and hospice care nurses coming every day. And there's pardon me for saying, the smell of sickness, it was just this terrible circumstance. And didn't want to be there, but at the same time, there was nowhere else I wanted to be. I was in the Dham. And Yurakula said something that I never forgot. Prabhu said that this is what a lifetime of sadhana does for you. Krishna will come. The scriptures are telling us the truth. It's so faith-giving to see how these devotees, when they leave, how even if, this, I'm not sure about Krishna Nandini Prabhu at the time that she left, but I know that this other Vaishnavi, when she left, she was unconscious. She was given morphine because of her pain, and she passed while she was unconscious. And so, we all pray that at our time we'll be, singing the holy names or chanting the holy names. But even if we can't, we were given the faith by our personal experience that Krishna came for her, even if she couldn't come. And we read that in the Shastra, and we had this faith-giving experience that it's true. So again, as we were reflecting about this past time with Vamanadev and why he was coming and tying together all of these reasons, it's to show us yet another example that just by being sincere, he will come, he will give us his love, he will give us his protection. And these stories are here for so many reasons, one of the most important of which is to increase our faith. So what prevents us from having this faith? We came up with 3 reasons. There's probably many more, but we came up with 3 that we'll share today. So one is that sometimes we hear these stories of these exalted devotees like Bali Maharaj or Aditi or Kashyapa Muni, and we think like, of course, Krishna came for them. These were, again, exalted personalities, pure devotees. Of course he's going to come for them, but like, why would he come for me? There's sometimes some doubt. The second reason we thought of is that, sometimes as we're chanting, we're offering our sadhana, we don't often feel like, maybe we just don't feel it. Or sometimes, for me, I know sometimes if things don't go my way, or if I feel like my prayers aren't being answered, then that can be a test of faith. Or for myself, I can reflect and say that like, I still think of myself as the doer. And so that's also an indication of a lack of faith. And that's because of so much conditioning. And then the third reason we came up with is that sometimes we can feel just absorbed in our lives and in ourselves, that sometimes it's hard to think of and to become more absorbed in Krishna.
Yeah, so we have to be aware of the obstacles to our faith so that we can remove them. We can beg Krishna to remove them more effectively than we can remove them. But it's our job to recognize the obstacles personally, to personalize them, and to then really petition Krishna from our hearts to step in. And I'm thinking about an instruction that Sachinandan Maharaj had given when I was speaking with him in New York City many years ago as a brahmachari. I had asked him about japa and what would be good for me personally to take to heart in chanting. The most important instruction of the Guru is to chant our 16 rounds of japa. So he had shared with me that the best thing he'd ever heard was from a sadhu in Vrindavan, and he practices this regularly, to chant as if Krishna is in the room with us. To chant as if Krishna is in the room with us. Why? Because he is. Now, how many of us feel that Krishna is in the room with us when we chant? This is an obstacle to our faith. This is ever present. How often are we aware that the super soul is residing in our hearts? I mean, there are devotees who, throughout the ages, they felt that they were never alone, that they could not get away from all persons, because this one person just follows them everywhere. They can't get away from him. And that is glorious. That's we want to be pursued by Krishna, to never feel separate from him. But the problem is that we're so unaware that he is there. We don't have that faith. So we need some help. Of course, as we mentioned, we need to pray. We need to recognize the obstacles to our faith and pray that Krishna removes them. But what can we do further from our side to really internalize the faith? You know, when we read this pastime of Lord Vamanadev approaching Bali Maharaj and doing so much good for his devotees, and we feel it's at arm's length from us. We feel, this doesn't really change my life after I read this. You know, we're supposed to read Bhagavatam and experience some kind of divine awakening, but I don't feel that. Well, what can we do? How can we get that faith? It requires that we see the process of bhakti works personally. We have to see that this actually works for us. It starts by seeing that it works for others. That gives us the impetus to try it on. But then when we try it on because it worked for others and it doesn't work for us, that's not enough. That won't do it, right? So how can we be sure that this will work? That when we read the the Shruti Phala, the fruit of the blessing from a prayer or from the Bhagavatam, we hear these really exalted descriptions of what is supposed to happen for us when we encounter these divine words, and we're not able to experience it for ourselves. How do we bridge the gap? We need a controlled environment, which means that we essentially, as my guru, Satchidananda Maharaj, was sharing with us in the Pathways to Perfection Atma-Nivedana lecture recently, that we have to fast from everything else but Krishna. We are taking in stimuli all the time. We're exposed to the material modes. We're exposed to all of these outside influences of the world constantly. And we have to diminish, we have to block those influences. Those are obstacles. And he was sharing how in the month of Kartik each year he does this, where, I mean, he's already a sannyasi. He has some good facility in his ordinary life, but very humbly he was sharing how, you know, he goes the many extra miles during the month of Kartik, and he just steeps himself in Krishna, 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 nothing else. And what he notices is that he becomes exuberant, so much so that even when he is woken up in the middle of the night by needing to use the restroom, he's singing Krishna's names like automatically, and he goes back to sleep and he dreams Krishna conscious dreams. There's just no interruption anymore. You can feel bhakti working, and the experience is, oh my God, this is what it's supposed to be like. This is what we're meant to feel all the time. This is what the soul is hankering for. So we have to get rid of the noise. We have to make the effort. This is why every yoga path starts with yama and niyama. Don't do this. First of all, do not do this, yama. Every yoga path requires this. And do this. Please invest yourself in the positive engagement of Krishna's service. And then we'll flourish. Then our bhakti will be so natural and so experiential. And we also need to become receptacles of faith from the people who have faith. There are people walking around this world right now as we speak who have tremendous faith. We've been talking about a few of them. And if we can be humble and be earnest and eager for faith, so much so that we just make ourselves receptacles, that we just want to receive their faith, there will be a transmission. There is a spiritual osmosis that takes place, which is very powerful, which over time completely transforms us. This is the phenomenon of Srila Prabhupada, one man, lighting up an entire movement. I mean, I was reflecting on this in the light of Krishnanandini Devi's passing, how many extraordinary souls have come about. And now we're seeing the fruits generations down the line who have been touched by this one person who has transmitted to another person who gets, who receives then this gift that offers it to somebody else, and it just keeps going. This is parampara. This is so faith-giving. So we have to seek out these people. And I'm thinking about how faith-giving it is for me to be with such persons. I'm recalling so it was just yesterday, Govardhan Puja, and a wonderful, wonderful occasion. I was meditating on my time at the foot of Govardhan Hill with Sachinandan Maharaj and Burijan Prabhu and the assembled Vaishnavas there in 2014. And I had been there in 2007, and I had an experience that was positive, but I was experiencing so much struggle. And then in 2014, I had arrived there with hope to gain more faith. And Burijan Prabhu he turned to me, he just grabbed me personally on the rooftop of the ashram there, right overlooking Govardhan. And he said, "Look at Giriraj. Isn't he so beautiful?" And I said, "Oh, Burijan Prabhu, I pray that I can develop your eyes to truly see him. I have no realization." And I really meant, I wasn't being humble, I wasn't being polite. I was expressing my sense of, well, I'm not seeing what you're seeing, and I'm not experiencing what you're experiencing. And he understood that it was real. I wasn't putting it on. I really needed help. So he had compassion for me, and he said, "Just go sit." And he pointed out the place where he wanted me to sit, right at the foot of Giriraj, on the same level we were overlooking from the rooftop, but then down there where Giriraj is, and go to him every day and just ask him. Don't even pray to him. Don't pray. Just ask him, "Are you just a rock? Tell me the truth. Giriraj, are you just a rock?" And I did it. I did it every day. And by the end of the retreat, I told him, "It works. You've given me your faith. It works." Now, I don't have the realization that he has, that's for sure. But I somehow think of Giriraj every day now. Ever since then, to 2014, it changes my life. And Govardhan Puja was very wonderful for me to remember him in that way. So these great souls, it's not ordinary, and they're residing with us. When Krishnanandini Prabhu gave me an instruction which was right in line with what I needed for my own Guru Maharaj, I was amazed that she understood that I am thinking that I'm the doer so hardcore that I'm not able to live with the ease and with the faith that I require. And so she just asked me to let go of that over time. Not that it will be magic all at once, I could just do that, but really when you surrender, then you can experience you're not the doer, Krishna is the doer. And my guru is always telling me personally, "You are a pusher. I know because I was one myself." You're pushing, pushing, pushing. You're trying so hard, but when will you just receive Krishna and just, like a butterfly landing on your shoulder, wait for him to lightly touch you? These experiences are faith-giving. These are what my guru says we need as rocks of faith. Rocks of faith. No pun intended with Giriraj. The necessity for all of us is to count our blessings, to create and maintain our rocks of faith, to get through the obstacles, the challenges of this material world. And faith is reciprocal. When we find it in our hearts, when we find the faith to invest in these instructions and these examples and teachings of those who have faith, that faith gets strengthened. It's reciprocal. If we invest our faith, whatever little we have, then it will become more powerful. It will come back to us in spades by the reciprocation of these great souls and of Krishna himself. So our request for us all to experience this bounty of faith in the Lord's love and protection for us personally is, please look for the faith givers in your life. Find the people, find the experiences, take stock of them. Each day, offer gratitude, like with your gratitude journals, which have become so popular now. Be grateful for the experiences of faith which Krishna gives you. Pursue them and take stock of them. We wish you a lovely, faith-giving day and life, and to be with you on this journey. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, both of you, for such a faith-giving sharing that you both did from your heart, and also making us remember so many amazing devotees. So already you can look at the chat, so many devotees are like Brajrani, Jamuna Jaya, Gaur Kumar Prabhu, Murli Gopal Prabhu, Rukmini, everybody is appreciating the class. Thank you so much. Extremely grateful for taking out the time to come and share, and especially accepting to give together. I know it takes a lot of preparation and coordination. Thank you for doing that. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
I'm unmuting other devotees. Anybody would like to ask, share, comment, please feel free to do so.
Hare Krishna, Hare Prasad, and Radha Bhakti Devi.
Hare Krishna,
So glad to see both of you. I'm here. Rasika's here also.
Haribol, Rasika Gopi.
Haribol, thank you so much. I really, Radha Bhakti, the emotion and depth that you delivered, that understanding of Krishna really coming for their devotees and being present, it was extraordinarily powerful. And it also honed in the definition of Adam is where Krishna is present. And so it really was powerful so much. And Hari Prasad Prabhu, deeply appreciating also just your discussion on faith and chanting with Krishna being present in the room. It was very, very, very powerful, and your experiences in Govardhan. The question that I had, I don't know if we have time for a question, was just, there was something brief that you mentioned about the Krishna Nandini and practicing the austerity of speech, being truthful, pleasing, and beneficial. And I don't know how much time we have, but I was just curious if you could speak on that a little bit, because it seems very difficult for truth. Something can be truthful, but for it to be also beneficial and pleasing. And sometimes the definition of a sadhu is that the one who cuts. And so, we say sometimes the truth hurts. And so it's, something can be beneficial, but it may not be what you want to hear. Or something can be what you want to hear, but it's not necessarily beneficial. And so how does a Vaishnav walk that line of speaking the truth in a way that is beneficial and pleasing? Or are there times where we might have to use a certain level of discrimination in terms of how to express truth?
So thank you so much, Doyle and Rasika. We love you both so much. Thank you for your being here. And we'll just give a fast answer because we know that Darshan is already here. I just want to give an answer that Bhakti Brihad Bhagwat Swami gave me once to the same question. He said that when somebody loves you so much, there is a pleasure that we experience when we're being chastised by them. So when somebody is saying something that can be cutting, if it's coming from the deepest region of the heart, filled with love and filled with, in line with Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, it will feel nice. I don't know if you've experienced that, but I've experienced that. So I don't know how to do that, but Krishna Nandini Prabhu really did. I mean, I'm going to try to find a recording of her answering challenging questions, and you'll see she was not ordinary, not from this world. Did you want to add something?
Well, just to your point, I experienced that with her. I felt like it was extremely humbling when she told me, hey, look, you're on this level, you want to get here. it's, I mean, nobody's false ego wants to hear like, okay, you're here, you need to be here. And coming from somebody that you love and admire so much. But when she said it, I was like, oh, thank God she's telling the truth. She cares enough to tell me what I need to hear. I will keep this forever. And it stung a little, but it was also beautiful. And actually it was more embarrassing because I was asking a question in front of an audience. So that adds to it, but it also adds to the purification and the anchoring of that. Now, I can't say that that is always my experience, but always in retrospect, when you understand the intention of the person, it's a beautiful thing.
Thank you so much. Very, very grateful. Appreciate it. Both of you exemplify that very much. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Seems that there is a question in the chat. Whoever sent you has prompted me. So if you have like a few minutes.
Yeah, please.
Sorry, which class? Or which question?
I was told like you have been sent personally the question.
Yeah, sorry. Who is the other Vaishnava? Oh, you know what? We were thinking like whether or not we should say her name, but we're really happy to. This was Mother Niranjani, the mother of Nirajani. I'm sorry, she used to hate that. The mother of Vrindavan Vinodini. And so we had the opportunity to be there. She was in Ottawa at the time. And thank you, because we ran it by Vrindavan Vinodini last night. We said, is it all right with you? We're going to speak about, your mom. And we said, we'll protect your privacy. And at the end, they said, it's okay if you say her name. And I don't know, there was just a part of me that was like, just in case. But it's an opportunity to glorify Vrindavan Vinodini and Rasnath as well, because just the amount that they came through for her just prior to her passing and at the moment of the passing. So, and when Nirakula Prabhu was speaking about a lifetime of sadhana and service, it very much relates to them as well. And just how much they're dedicated to their service and sadhana, and how Krishna will come for the devotee, but also for the devotee's relatives and so on because of their sincerity, which was also a point that I didn't get to say, that, all we need is sincerity. We don't have to be perfect, and Krishna will come for us. Thank you for asking that question. I think that was coming from Krishna, that saying it's okay to say her name. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Especially the last statement that you said, like, it's so faith-giving. Like, we don't need to be perfect. If we are sincere, then Krishna will do whatever is necessary to make us perfect or take us to the place of perfection. So thank you so much. It's extremely enlightening to hear both of you. So thank you so much. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Radha Bhakti Devi and Hare Prasad Prabhu ki jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai. Go to Bhakti Vrinda ki jai.
Others who want to say something can continue. I have to go attend to the Guru Puja, so I'll be jumping off. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Gershon.
So we'll turn off our video, but there's one last question that we see. Can you repeat the 3 reasons why our faith can falter? So quickly, I think there's many different reasons, but the 3 that we sort of came up with was that sometimes we can read these stories about exalted personalities and these pure devotees and think, of course Krishna would come for them because they're so pure, but we might have some doubt in ourselves and whether we're worthy of the same amount of love and protection. So that might affect our faith. The second one is maybe just not feeling it right away as we offer our japa and our sadhana, or when things don't go our way. And then the third one that we thought of is when we're just feeling absorbed in our world and in ourselves, we might not be receptive and tuned into the love and protection that's coming, and that can also affect our faith. So we'll turn off our video so that you can focus on beautiful deities, and thank you once again for having us. Hare Krishna.